I just don't know if Valdez is going to be able to make those adjustments while he's got that guy who's a two-fisted puncher coming at him the way he is. Not to mention he's got a lot to prove.
Welcome into boxing scene's top stories here on ProBox TV. Download the ProBox TV app. Never fall behind in your boxing news. Well, there are two truths in boxing. Number one is winners fight the same fight twice. It's a loser that has to make adjustments. The second thing is fighters lie. They lie all the time. So take everything they say with a grain of salt. But it's true. Oscar Valdez says he won't make the same mistakes against Emanuel Navarrete in their rematch December 7th. Oh, I got some people to break that down. The champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and ESPN boxing analyst Timothy Bradley. Tim, let me start with you because you called the first fight. You're calling the second fight. Number one, the fact that Valdez is saying this publicly. I made mistakes. I'm going to change the way I fight. Pretty refreshing for a fighter to say that, but was it about the mistakes in the first fight that he can correct in the second? What's your thought?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, the first mistake he made is that he just came in there and he had one thing on his mind, and that was a landing left hook. He kept thinking back probably to that Burchelt knockout that he had when he landed that big left hook. You know, he caught a Burchelt on the way in, similar to, to the way he was trying to attempt to catch Navarrete on the way in. Navarrete, he runs red lights, guys. He makes mistake after mistake. He lunges forward at times. He'll leap up with uppercuts. He leaves himself exposed. And, there's opportunities to land, but he was smart. He knew that the left hook was all Oscar Valdez was looking for. Another mistake that I saw him make inside the fight was that he just used a high guard. And when you use a high guard against a volume puncher and somebody that hits hard and you're leaning forward like this, and you're tucked up in that high guard and you allow them to touch you, man, they're going to be able to land. They're going to land shots around. They're going to split stuff down the middle. They're going to be able to land around on the body chops, on the flanks as well. And that's what Navarrete did, man. Anytime Oscar would go up into that high guard, he didn't move his head, he would get clipped with shots, man, coming around, and you would see how it affected him. It forced him to move around the ring and then reset his feet, and it just showed you that Navarrete was in total control every time he would let his hands go. But yeah, he can make some damn good changes. He gonna have to, because if he doesn't make any changes, I see the same fight happening for the second time around.
Chris, when you look at this fight, they've each had one fight in between. Valdez getting with Navarrete, moving up and losing to Baranchyk, but that was in a weight class that wasn't his own. What are your thoughts on the in-between fights? What did we learn from them, if anything?
Well, it's definitely been a different momentum shift since their last fight. Going into that last fight, I was expecting Oscar Valdez to have a very, very different game plan. I thought he was going to go out there and box more like, as you said, Tim, in that Burchelt manner, where he's kind of setting up shots, setting up those big punches. It was not the way that he chose to fight that night. And honestly, I don't know if he can fight like that anymore. I don't know if he has the ability to go back to his boxing at this stage of his career. And not to mention, you got a guy named Navarrete in front of you that's not going to allow you to make these adjustments. He's a difficult guy to be in the ring with. You said he runs red lights. I like that term. He's a kind of a face-first kind of guy, but he's got long arms and he hits hard. He throws uppercuts from weird positions from out of range and still catches you. And I just don't know if Valdez is going to be able to make those adjustments while he's got that guy who's a two-fisted puncher coming at him the way he is. Not to mention he's got a lot to prove. He's coming off of a loss at 135, is Navarrete. He's coming back down to defend his title. There's a lot on the line here. They've also got the all-Mexican clash, so there's going to be a lot of pride and ego and machismo on the line for this fight as well. This is a tough fight for Valdez. He is the guy that has to make the adjustments. I'm just not sure that he can at this stage of his career with a guy as good and tough as Navarrete is.
That's the question, Paulie. 33 years old, 34 fights, a lot of wars for Valdez. Is it a matter of tactical changes or, as Chris said, being physically capable of making changes with what he's been through in his career? Is it about changes or is it about where his body is? What's your thought?
The thing about the adjustments, we're talking tactics right now, right?
Yeah.
And yes, these guys are tactical fighters in some aspects, but Mexican fighters tend to be also emotional kind of fighters. They rely on the crowd, that hyped up feeling, the toe-to-toe action. So you got to keep the emotion of it in mind as well, and the momentum of the direction these two guys have gone. Valdez is a he can box a little bit, but he likes to be put in the action. Neither of these guys will ever be defensive specialists, right? So they don't mind putting their faces in the way in order to achieve what they want, which is damage. Okay, Valdez is sort of back on some positive momentum for himself. Navarrete, on the other hand, is on negative momentum at this point. So how do you know that? How do we know that the momentum and the emotion in his mind isn't going to say, you know what, I've got to run more red lights to put it Tim's way. I got to run more red lights to be the Mexican, be more Mexican than the Mexican in this fighter because I'm macho, whatever we want to call it. How do we know that the emotion isn't going to play a factor here in this? You know, we're talking tactics between two guys, and we're talking about defensive adjustments between two guys who rarely make defensive adjustments anyway. We're talking about adjustments here from a tactical perspective between two guys who possibly will live up to this fight the way they didn't live up in the first fight. The first fight, we were expecting a back and forth war, right? Remember, we ended up watching the fight. We're like, this isn't what we expected. I think this fight could give us what we expected the first time around. I feel like there's more desperation on the part of both of these guys at this point. And I feel like even though from a technical perspective and tactical perspective, these conversations are worthy, I think there's an emotional aspect of it that's going to make this fight a war.
Yeah, so Tim, my question for you, because you're calling it in Phoenix, huge Mexican and Mexican-American population. The crowd's going to be crazy. Who do you think does better in that kind of emotional-fueled kind of war that Paulie is talking about? Which fighter would you favor when the technique's a little bit pushed aside?
Look, I think both fighters here, they fight with their heart. They fight with their pride. Of course. I think they're Mexican, right? And then the larger the crowd, the louder the crowd, the harder they're going to fight. But Paulie had a huge point, man, really. You know, whoever can control their emotions is going to have an advantage in this fight, truly. And if it's a war, in my opinion, it's going to favor Navarrete. Navarrete likes those type of fights. He's the harder puncher in this matchup as well. You know, he's the more awkward puncher. He throws more punches as well. So, you know, Valdez gonna have to box smart. He's gonna have to control his emotions, box smart. That was one thing that I read also in an interview that I came across, was that he said that, like, you know, that Mexican versus Mexican. Yeah. He said, yeah, I was thrown off by that. You know, I fought harder than I should have. I was just looking for the left hook. I could have done more, and he could have. You know, the right hand was available for him as well. I also saw he never moved to his right. Go watch the fight. He kept moving left the whole night. You know, he never moved right. Guys, if you're moving left and you're getting hit, go move right. And if you're moving right and you're getting hit, move back or push forward. Like, you have to try different things inside that ring. And Oscar Valdez that night, again, was fighting with too much emotion. So I would say this time around, fight with this. Don't fight with this.
Tell him, Tim, you got to spike those, fucker.
We know Paulie's always coming in with the quotes, but it's going to be a great fight December 7th. Well, guess what? Same thing we have here. December 7th here on ProBox TV. Ireland versus Ireland. We spoke to both fighters. They are ready to go December 7th. Download the ProBox TV app. Don't miss not only your boxing news, but great fights. Check it out.
ProBox TV Contender Series. On December 7th, look for an all-out Irish war as Dylan the Real Deal Moran battles Tyrone the Mighty Celt McKenna at the top of a stacked ProBox-worthy card.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.